This is good, but this is better, but this is goddamn amazing. Isekai anime usually goes one of two ways. Either you die and wake up in another world as an overpowered hero, or you die and wake up still kind of a loser. Mushoku Tensei takes the second path, and that's what makes it special. Instead of giving us a protagonist who's effortlessly strong from the start, it gives us Rudeus, a man who's wasted his first life, ruined every opportunity he had, and now, in his second life, actually has to earn his redemption. This isn't a story about being reborn and instantly becoming better. It's about carrying your past with you, confronting your worst traits, and going through the long, often painful process of real change. And let's be honest, who hasn't wished for a second chance? Most isekai protagonists are thrown into their new world with a vague sense of adventure, often with little to no real baggage apart from being huge losers, just like you behind the screen. They get a fresh start, new powers, a new world, and a new chance to make a difference. But Rudeus, or Rudy for short, Mushoku Tensei is different. He doesn't get a clean slate. Instead, he's burned by a lot of emotional baggage, and I mean a lot. In his previous life, Rudy was a shut-in NEET. But it was not just out of laziness, it was about fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of facing the world. He locked himself away for years, building walls around himself out of shame and anxiety. And the more he hid, the deeper his self-loathing grew. By the time he died, he was completely isolated, consumed by his own insecurities. When he's reborn into a new world, you might expect him to leave all that behind. A new world, a new life. Surely his past would stay in the old world, right? But Mushoku Tensei does something unique. Instead of wiping his slate clean, it keeps Rudy's past flaws and trauma with him. His fears, regrets, and shame follow him into this new life. And at first, he's still the same person. Cowardly, awkward, and deeply insecure. However, here's the catch. Rudy actually wants to change. He sees his second chance as an opportunity to not waste his life as he did before. He recognizes that this is his shot to be a better person, to live fully, to do things he's never dared to do in his first life. But here's the thing, wanting to change is easy. Actually changing is another story entirely. The journey to change isn't a simple one, and Rudy quickly discovers that his old fears don't disappear just because he's in a new world. His insecurities and doubts are still there, lurking beneath the surface. Every time he's faced with a challenge, his past failures and fears creep back into his mind, making him question if he's really capable of growth. And there are many things that hold Rudy back in the beginning, such as the fear of stepping outside, or of facing the world, or even just talking to people. He freezes, paralyzed by the same fear that held him back in his first life. This isn't an instant transformation. His growth is slow. It's messy, and it's full of setbacks. But that's what makes his journey feel real and relatable. What sets Mushoku Tensei apart is it doesn't let Rudy escape his past. It doesn't offer a magical fix or an easy way out. Instead, it shows that growth takes a lot of time and effort. It's not about erasing who you were, but confronting it and choosing to be better. Rudy's story isn't one of instant success. It's about learning from mistakes, facing your fears, and gradually growing into a better person. In real life, change is just as slow and difficult as Rudy's journey. We all carry some form of emotional baggage, and it takes effort to move past it. But what Mushoku Tensei shows is that change is possible. It's hard work, yes, but it's worth it when we choose to face our fears and grow. Rudy might not have an easy path, but his story is a reminder that redemption doesn't come in an instant. It's something you earn. The thing about trauma is, it just doesn't disappear. We'd like to think that with time, with a change of scenery or with a fresh start, the emotional scars would fade. But the truth is, they often don't. Trauma isn't something you can just leave behind, especially not when it's deeply ingrained in the way you see and experience the world. And Mushoku Tensei really nails this idea with Rudy's character development. One of the most powerful moments early on is when Rudy leaves his house for the first time. Now, logically, he knows that he's in a completely different world. No one from his past life is here to judge him. No one is there to remind him of his failures. In theory, this is his chance to get a fresh start, unburdened by the weights of his past. But when he actually goes outside, his body freezes. Now, it's not that Rudy doesn't want to go outside. He desperately wants to take that first step, just like how you can take the first step into more anime content by subscribing to this channel. He wants to prove that he's no longer the same person he was in his past life. But when it comes to actually moving, it's as if something deep inside of him is holding him back. It's the fear, the same paralyzing fear that kept him locked in his room for years. His mind might know that this is a new world, but his body remembers. His experiences and the emotional scars of his past life don't just vanish because of a change in scenery. The fear that kept him a prisoner in his previous life is very much alive, lurking in the back of his mind, ready to strike at the first sign of vulnerability. This moment is painful, but it's also painfully real. For anyone who's dealt with trauma or depression or anxiety or even a deep-rooted self-doubt, the hardest part isn't always making a big, grand change. The hardest part is often taking that first step forward, no matter how small it is. It's easy to tell someone, just get over it, or it's a new chapter, start fresh. But when you're the one facing your demons, it's never that simple. And Rudy is no different. The fear he's carrying isn't something that can be swept away with good intentions. It's a part of him, woven into the fabric of who he is. Even when Rudy seems to be making progress, that lingering trauma always has a way of showing up at the worst possible times. The teleportation incident is a key turning point in his journey. After being teleported to an unfamiliar, dangerous land, he's faced with a situation where he has to be strong, not only for himself, but for Eris, the person he cares for deeply. He wants to protect her. He wants to prove that he's changed, that he's stronger than the person he was before. But in the heat of the moment, when his bravery is truly tested, Rudy freezes. He's paralyzed by the same fears, the same doubts, and the same insecurities that followed him since his first life. This moment is critical because it's not just about the physical danger they're in, it's about Rudy's internal battle. He may have made progress, but he's not free of his trauma. The way he reacts in the heat of the moment reveals just how much of his old self is still in control. He can't simply will himself to be a hero in that instant, because the weight of his past still has a hold on him. It's a powerful reminder that overcoming trauma isn't a linear journey, nor is it something you just get over once and for all. This is where Mushoku Tensei really stands out. It understands that trauma doesn't work in neat, predictable ways. It lingers. It comes back at the most inconvenient moments when you least expect it. Overcoming it isn't about having a single, shining moment of triumph. It's about fighting that battle every day. It's about learning to live with your trauma, to acknowledge it and continue moving forward in spite of it. That is what Rudy is learning. And it's a lesson that Mushoku Tensei imparts with raw honesty that is rarely seen in many other stories. In real life, overcoming trauma doesn't mean erasing the past or pretending it didn't happen. It means finding ways to face it, to cope with it, and to slowly reclaim your power step by step. And that's exactly what Rudy's journey in Mushoku Tensei reflects. A long, hard, often painful process of facing his fears and learning to be the person he wants to be. Not just in spite of his trauma, but through it. Now, growth isn't something you do alone. It's easy to think of personal transformation as a solitary journey, but the truth is, the people around us have profound impact on our development. In Mushoku Tensei, the idea is explored through Rudy's interactions with the people who shape his life, each of them playing a crucial role in his journey of redemption and rehabilitation. Roxy is the first person who truly believes in Rudy. On the surface, she's just his magic teacher, but she becomes much more than that. She's the first real mentor he's ever had. Before Roxy, in his past life, no one ever saw potential in him beyond his failures. But Roxy sees something different in him. She doesn't just teach him magic, she gives him structure and hope. She challenges him to improve, to grow, and to believe that he can be more than what he was. Roxy doesn't just treat him like a student, she treats him like someone who can change. This is something Rudy has never experienced before. In his past life, he was never given the opportunity to grow beyond his flaws. So having someone who believes in him is a revelation. Her belief in his potential is a spark that begins to ignite a slow transformation in him, and that's a gift that changes the trajectory of his life. Paul, on the other hand, is far from perfect. In fact, he's often reckless and impulsive and makes a lot of mistakes as a father. But through Paul, Rudy learns an important lesson. Adults are flawed too. Paul is far from the ideal father figure, and their relationship is complicated from the start. When the teleportation incident occurs, Paul's harsh criticism of Rudy for not doing more to find their family deeply wounds him. Rudy, still carrying the weight of his past life's insecurities, feels betrayed. He wants his father's approval, but at that moment, all he feels is condemnation. The conflict between them is a painful and raw moment in the series. What makes it even more powerful is that neither of them is completely right or wrong. Paul, in his own flawed way, is trying to motivate Rudy, but his lack of understanding and his inability to see his son's own struggles causes more harm than good. Rudy, on the other hand, is too consumed by his own emotional baggage and trauma to see that his father's criticisms, though harsh, come from a place of love. It's a complicated relationship, and it's in these messy, imperfect moments that Rudy truly begins to understand the complexity of human relationships and the importance of forgiveness, not just of others, but of himself. And then there's Eris. She's someone who pushes him to be better. Their dynamic is intense, both emotionally and physically. Eris is a fiery, passionate character who challenges Rudy in ways that Roxy and Paul can't. She doesn't let him slack off or just take the easy route out, and her competitive spirit brings out the best in him. But their relationship isn't just about physical training, it's also about the emotional growth as well. Eris forces Rudy to confront his weaknesses, his fears and his desires. She forces him to take responsibility for his actions and to rise to the occasion. But when Eris leaves, it's a gut punch for Rudy. After all the growth they've shared, she's gone, and he's left to grapple with the fact that sometimes the people who help us the most aren't meant to stay forever. It's a painful reminder that growth often involves loss, but it's also a reminder that we carry the lessons of those who leave us, and sometimes it's their departure that forces us to stand on our own. Through Roxy, Paul and Eris, Rudy learns that growth isn't just about overcoming personal flaws, it's about learning from others, accepting that no one is perfect, and understanding the people we meet can leave lasting impressions, whether they stay or go. These relationships are messy, and they're painful, and often difficult, but they are ultimately what helped Rudy begin the process of redemption and growth. Now, a lot of stories like to just brush aside their protagonist's flaws, offering them a quick fix or an instant transformation. In some tales, the hero is handed a magical power-up or a sudden moment of clarity, and then they're suddenly a better person. But Mushoku Tensei doesn't give Rudy that luxury. Instead, it forces him to face his flaws head-on, and the results are both painful and real. There's his over-reliance on magic. Rudy is a powerful magic user, and early on he falls into the trap of thinking magic is the answer to everything. I mean, why wouldn't you? It's easy to rely on his magical abilities than to face the complexities of the world around him. And that reliance on magic has a fatal flaw. It leaves him vulnerable in real close combat situations. There's a crucial moment when he's faced with a physical fight where magic won't save him. His lack of physical skills and reliance on magic leave him unprepared for the unpredictability of the real world. This moment is a harsh reminder that sometimes the world doesn't operate in neat ways. Life doesn't always play out how a book might suggest, and Rudy has to learn that magic, like anything else, is just one tool among many. However, perhaps the most painful flaw Rudy faces is Rudy tends to run away from difficult emotions and to prioritize his own growth or his own desires over the people who truly care about him. Not only is Rudy haunted by the emotional scars of his past life, he also realizes the devastating truth. Sometimes you don't always get a second chance to fix things. Time slips away, and the moments you don't spend with loved ones can never be reclaimed. That realization is a gut punch for Rudy, forcing him to confront his own failure to act when it mattered most. It's an incredibly real and painful moment, one that many people can relate to. The regret of not prioritizing the people who matter when you have the chance. But here's the crucial part of Rudy's journey. He doesn't just make these mistakes and move on, he learns from them, slowly, but he learns. And that's what makes his growth feel authentic. Mushoku Tensei doesn't just give him an easy way out. He doesn't have a moment where everything magically clicks and he becomes a perfect person. He has to fight for his growth. And that struggle is what makes his eventual transformation so meaningful. If there's one thing that Mushoku Tensei gets right, is that growth is slow. Rudy doesn't change overnight. He's not suddenly a perfect person after learning a lesson or two. He does stumble, he does regress, he does fall back into old habits. But over time, with the help of people around him, he begins to change. He learns to treat people with more respect. He starts to accept responsibility for his actions instead of running away from his problems. He becomes a mentor, teaching others the lessons he slowly learned, which is a powerful moment of irony. The boy who once needed guidance is now able to give it. And as the story progresses, he starts to act instead of just reacting, and he makes choices that align with his evolving sense of self. His flaws aren't erased, but he's learned how to live with them. His journey doesn't offer a clean, shiny redemption arc, but instead a messy, real one that mirrors the complexities of real-life personal growth. Rudy's evolution isn't about erasing his past mistakes, it's about acknowledging them, learning from them, and taking the steps to become someone who is worthy of the second chance he's been given. This is what makes Mushoku Tensei's portrayal of growth so impactful. It understands that transformation is never perfect. It's a series of small, sometimes painful steps forward, and sometimes those steps forward come with setbacks, missteps, and moments of doubt. But at the end of the day, Rudy learns to live with his imperfections and grow into a better version of himself, one mistake at a time. That's what makes his redemption feel earned and ultimately real. Rudy doesn't change overnight, but over time, he starts to transform, and by the end, he's not a different person, he's just a better one. Now, at the end of the day, Mushoku Tensei isn't just a story about adventure and magic and second chances. It's a story about redemption and growth. Rudy doesn't become a perfect person, and he's never completely freed from his past, but he tries, and he fails, and he hurts the people he cares about. But he keeps moving forward. And isn't that what redemption really is? Not erasing who you were, but choosing every day to be someone better. Because in real life, we don't get easy do-overs, but we do get the chance to learn. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Because we can't always erase the trauma of the past. We can't just forget the pain we went through. But what we can do is write over the trauma. And we can create new, beautiful, wonderful memories that we can cherish for the rest of our life.